are a mother, and are you a grandmother yet? No, just a mother. Okay, not trying to rush anything, just asking. And you are a mother and
and a grandmother.
And a grandmother. Yes. Okay, so you can talk about both, and the same questions apply. What will you tell, or what do you hope that Wesley and Clint will say to your grandchildren and Lauren? And at the same token, after you finish, start with your mom and tell us about her, the great memories that you have with her. What makes her an awesome mom? Why would you like to salute her on Mother's Day?
My earliest memory of my mother is when she was holding me and put me in a playpen. That was my earliest memory of my mother. And when she left me there, I was crying and holding up my hands for, to come and get me. But she wanted me to take a nap. But that was my earliest memory of my mother. I had to have been not even 2 years old, just several months old.
What a great memory. Yeah, my earliest memory is age 4, so I'm amazed. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what I would like for my children to be able to tell their children about their grandmother is that she was a strong woman. She persevered through hard times, and whenever things happened in her life where she was pulled down in one area, she would always pop back up in another area. I mean, stronger and better than, the way she was left, before. So that's the biggest thing, that their grandmother is a very strong woman. And she was smart. She is very smart. I don't want to talk about, her as if she wasn't here, but she's still alive. My mother is 77 years old, and she can work circles around me. She has more strength. I've watched my mother care for me, when I was diagnosed with cancer, and I watched her care for my baby brother when he was diagnosed with cancer, and she would fly out. It just seems like there was just so many parts of her that she would take care of her children, and then she raised 2 of her grandchildren and adopted them as well.
Wow.
And
my mother reminds me of my grandmother and my Aunt Virginia. Both of them were super strong women to the very last, and taking care of their children. And then when my Aunt Virginia was leaving here, she said to me, I drove up to Tallahassee, it was on a Sunday, spent the day with her to give her daughter a break. She passed that Wednesday, but she asked me would I check on Patrice, which was her granddaughter, to make sure she was okay. And she took her to school and helped her daughter get out and on down the line, and finally said, go home and see about your children. I've lived my life. My grandmother, the week before she passed, she said, I've lived my life, go home and see about your children, and was just strong to the very last. Had raised her children and her grandchildren.
Yes.
So is your mom related to my family?
Probably. We're related.
That's good, Mel. They're definitely related in the spirit realm. Spirit realm. Great women.
Yes. And what stood out a lot for me is how she cared for her mother. And I watched that. I mean, she would take her mother food, breakfast, lunch, dinner. She would take us along with her, and then we would feed my grandmother, or if she could not make it, she would call one of us and, tell us, well, you need to go by the nursing home and see about your grandmother, or either go to her house. My grandmother actually lived by herself until she was 93. And then
I'm going to do that. No, I really am.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Me too.
I love that independent living, able to take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
So you come out of a strong bloodline. That's
Absolutely,
great.
yes. And then she ended up having to move with my mother when she was 93 because her leg was amputated. But my mother cared for her. I think she passed 3 years later when she was 96. But my mother is just strong. I saw her take care of her mother, take care of her 5 children, take care of, her grandchildren, and now helping to take care of her great-grandchildren.
And your mother's still working?
My mother is still working.
She's still driving?
She's still driving.
Wow.
She still lives, in her house. She's just a total businesswoman, just a good person all the way around. I admire her so much. She doesn't know how much I admire her.
Well, yes. I hope that she'll watch this and she'll see what a great daughter that she gave birth to and how appreciative you are.
Absolutely. Yes.
What about you, Leesa? Is your mom related to our mom?
I think she might be.
We're all related.
I was thinking earlier, actually on yesterday, I was thinking about my favorite memory, and I tried very hard to go and find. My mother would, one of my favorite memories, I think maybe back to when I was 4 or 5, is no matter what happened, I would get in my mother's lap and smell her arms, which is so silly, but my mother always smelled like there's a cologne. They only sell it now at Christmas, and it was called Sand and Sable.
I heard of that. Okay.
So for a long time after I was an adult, I would buy a bottle of Sand and Sable, and when I felt a little down or I missed my mother, I would spray it on my arm and smell it, and it would remind me of sitting in my mother's lap.
You're going to make me cry. You're kind of tearing up myself. My grandmother loved gardenias, and every time I smell a gardenia, I think about her. I actually have a gardenia in my room that someone had the wisdom to send as a part of the flowers when my brother passed on February 20th. And instead of it making me sad, it made me smile, knowing that it was just a great memory of my grandmother. That's awesome.
Well, my mother is still living as well. My mother is 86 now. But I remember for so long, my favorite memories, every conference that we had, my children would go up, the girls would go up and stay with her. And sometimes they'd stay a week, sometimes it was 2 weeks, and I didn't have pictures of them as they were coming up, but one Christmas, maybe about 4 years ago, she made a scrapbook for every one of my children. Wow. And she had pictures of them growing up. And with the baby, Gabrielle, who's now 22, she had a picture of me standing with my stomach out because I just thought I was huge when I was pregnant. I was little, I wasn't anything. Right. But I just knew.
Pregnant people look bad.
I know. But
real pregnant people, like I look like a baby whale.
No, I was little, but I just knew I was huge. And that was the first picture in her scrapbook, was that picture of me being pregnant. And then looked like 6 months, different things throughout that it helped them to know where they came from. And they talk about it now. My mother was really, and still is, really strong. I came along with some similar things that I was thinking about one day when I was 30, I went back to college. And she went back to college when she was about 30. We had the same struggles in the same class, wow, which was English, 1101. And she talks about that to this day because she was saying the man told her she wasn't going to make it because she didn't know how to type. Mm-hmm. Oddly enough, it was the same thing that my teacher told me. Wow. Because I didn't know how to work a computer at that age. But he told me almost the exact same words, and that was really, for me, I kept saying, gosh, same road, till when my daughter came along and she started struggling in the subject, and oddly enough, it's English. Wow. So I said, nope, we're going to break this. You are not going to give up. We're going to do this. And she struggled through it, but we talked about it, and she talked to Mother. And my mother would tell her, I'm going to be there when you graduate from high school, because she had a fear of her dying. And she said, nope, I'm going to be there when you graduate. I'm going to be there when you graduate from college. And she was. Wow. We have pictures of her, and she remembers that.
It's powerful how they can decree something and be, yes, actually mm-hmm, be such a strong woman that they actually, heaven makes sure that what they decreed and declared happened. My grandmother did the same thing. When all of us were fearful of her passing, because our mother had passed, father when I was 4, mother when I was 10, and afraid that my grandmother would pass and didn't know what we would do, she said, I'm going to be here until every one of you are married and have your own house. I was the last one to buy my house. All of us was married. I bought my house in 1987 in May, and she passed in May after she'd seen my house.
Wow. As far as work ethic, my mother worked 2 jobs when I was little. She would go to work. Yes. She worked 2 jobs because she really had intended for her children to have things that she didn't have. That's what she said. So a couple of days ago, I was thinking about Gabby and working as a para and then working with her business. And I kept saying, gosh, she's working too hard. She's working too hard. And then I remembered she told me the same thing. And I remember telling my mother the same thing. You're working too hard. You're working too hard. So she instilled just such a strong work ethic in all of us that when you want something or when you have something that you're in need or you want to do, then you work. You work hard for it and you get what you wanted and you can be proud of it. So my little one, even though she's not little, she reminds me of that quite often as I saw you do this. I saw you work hard and I saw you. And so to this day, we still go up there. My grandmother passed when she was 94, but she would call them tell those gals. Tell those gals, I said, come here and see me. Come see about me. And they got the biggest kick out of going to her house and going in her dresser drawer and getting a piece of juicy fruit gum. But she would always buy it so that they would have gum. And to this day, and I didn't think about it until a few minutes ago, I will go in the store and pick up a piece of juicy fruit gum, pick up a pack of juicy fruit gum, and I guess in that way, it reminds me of my grandmother.
Oh, wow. Here's to you, Mom.
My mom was the best mom.
Not better than my mom.
My mom was the best mom.
Maybe your mom was second, but not better than
my mom was the best mom to me.
Oh, okay.
My mom was very small and built. She was very small in weight size. She was thin, but she would tell you, put her hand on her hip, and she would always say, I'm a little piece of leather, but I'm well put together. And that's how she dealt with the people in the neighborhood, and everyone in the neighborhood respected her. She got all the respect there was. And if anything happened, all they did was come to her, talk about it. She would let them know it with her wisdom and all, and they would be fine. But my most memory of her, when I was little, of course I'm baby. And she said,
of course.
Of course, yes. Mm-hmm. Because she would say,
we know that.
I'm spoiled. But she would, no matter what went down or how it came about, why did you touch my baby? Because I'm the baby. She always spoke up for the baby. And I could be doing something to the other person, but she didn't see that. She just saw baby. Don't bother my baby. But she also used to make what we call the leftover biscuits that she would fix on maybe through the week. She would cook a pan of biscuits, bake a pan of biscuits. And she made the best homemade biscuits. And if we didn't eat all of the biscuits through the week, she would put it all together, and we would call it, she called it bread pudding, but we all would call it biscuit pudding. And man, just thinking about it now, I'm going like back to that day.
Are you sampling that? I mean, she started smacking your lips.
Yes, it was the best thing. I mean, she made the best biscuit pudding, and the kids in the neighborhood would go like, when come they making those biscuit pudding?
Baby would share with the neighborhood?
Well, Mama would make me do that.
Oh, okay. All right. Tell us about your mom, Maura.
Okay, my mom, she's still alive, and she's 92 now. She's not able to live on her own. She's in a living assisted home, and she's the mother that raised 11 children. Wow. And right now there's 6 of us still living, 4 brothers and 2 girls. Me, I'm one of them. Thinking about it now, it was like it was no problem to her the way she raised us. We actually grew up poor, but we didn't know it. We didn't go without anything. Everything we ate, now they call it organic. We raised it in our own gardens, in our fields, sweet potatoes, collard greens, sweet peas, black-eyed peas. You name it, we had it. We even had the cow. They milked the cow. We had fresh milk. So everything we had more than enough. And during the summer, we would have cousins to come live the summer with us. They'd come in skinny. By the end of the summer, they'd leave out fat.
She was fattening up the people and the cows. Okay.
She fattened up people because we were always eating. It looked like she lived in the kitchen. She'd wake up early, cooking breakfast. When breakfast was done, she'd continue on to cook lunch, and then she'd continue to cook dinner or supper. So it was always something going on and something smelling good in the house. And during the holidays, remember when they would have the cake drawers? Anybody remember that? Where they cook up all these cakes and put them in a drawer. We knew not to touch them. So she would cook like 2 weeks in advance before Christmas.
You're making me hungry.
Cakes and pies, and we knew not to touch them. But she was always providing, cooking, giving. She was a giver. She would always cook and give. She would sew. I got my sewing from her. I took up sewing, home economics in class. And the only odd thing that I did, aside from my sisters, I left home. They didn't expect me to, but I did. So they told me, oh, you're going to cry to come home. Never cried.
You were in the Air Force and have seen the world, retired from the Air Force. Is that correct? All right.
Yeah, so my mother and dad, they instilled the work ethics. If you want something, you have to get out and work for it. So I worked all my life. As a little kid, well, I guess 10, 11 years old, we used to clean people's houses, and we get paid on the weekend. So from that point on, I've always, I got my own money. I can do what I want. And they allowed us to. So I learned how to, if you want something, you work for it. So I instilled that in my children. You know, they come and ask for, one of my middle daughter, Nikhil, she wanted a car. She wanted me to buy, being a single parent, she wanted me to buy her a car like her friends' parents bought them a car. And I'm like, oh no, I can't afford that. If you want a car, you got to work for it. So in a way, I passed the work ethic on to them. You want something, go work for it. So a lot of what I remember as far as my bringing up with my mother and father is to get out and work. You want something, go work for it. And life was great.
Bravo. Here's to you, Mom.
Well, the thing that I appreciate about my mom is that her childhood dream was to be a mother. When I was in my 4th year.
That's amazing. That's like the women in the Bible.
Right. When I was in my 4th year of college, I took a class, and the point of the class was to find out what your family or your family structure was. And my mother's side of the family is very matriarchal. It's a lot of strong women in the family. So we had to find out what gave them agency, or basically what they drew their value from. So some people have a job and they find agency in their job, or they have a talent that they find agency in. And so I thought that my family found agency in church because my family was in church all of the time. But when I went back, I interviewed my great-grandmother, my grandmother, and my mother, and all of them wanted to be mothers, and they found their agency in their family and in their children. My great-grandmother lived on a farm and raised her kids. My grandmother raised her 7 children. My mother had 6 children. She had plans to have 12 children with my father, and they both wanted to have 12 children together.
Took my breath away.
I know.
I mean, when my grandmother was a little girl, it was typical for you to have that large family. But your mom and I are around the same age,
Right.
if not the same age.
Right.
And I never wanted more than 4. And I remember your mother loved being pregnant.
Right.
And I thought, what is wrong with this woman? Who loves morning sickness?
But she found her value when I asked her, what were your dreams? Like, did you want to be a doctor and a lawyer? She said, no, I always wanted to be a mom. I always wanted to have my husband go to work. I wanted to stay home, take care of my children. And she has done that. She stayed home. She took care of us. She helped us with our homework. She was always very nurturing. She was a disciplinarian, but she was very loving. And when she wanted a job, she got a job at the school so she can be close to us. But they offered her a job at the school because she was there so much with all 6 of us, that they just offered her a job at the school. And so she was there. She was always parent of the year. And so I think that now she's getting to eat the fruit of that, because she gets to go to this house and eat fruit, and go to my brother's house and eat fruit. And so I just would like to pass on, I hope I'm that nurturing and that impactful to my children.
Oh, you will be. Tell us about your mom. She wasn't better than my mom. My mom was the greatest, but go ahead.
For the South, we lived up north.
So your mom was the greatest northern
Yes,
mom. My
yes.
mom was the greatest mom in the world.
However, my mom's still living. She's 82. She's 18 years older than me. One of the earliest memories I have of my mother, and this was when we were still in Mississippi before we moved up north, something was happening outside with me and the dog, and my mother came out there, and she was getting on me about something, and my grandmother, who I call mother, or mama, I call my mother mother, I call my grandmother mama, she came out there and she beat all of us. She beat the dog, she beat my mama, and she beat me. That's one of the earliest memories I have. Her name was Annie Mae Johnson, and she didn't take no mess. But anyway,
You know what my favorite memory is of your mom? I just remembered, I'm sorry. No, it is just such a great story. When he tells the story that he was playing football. Were you in high school or college? High school. High school. And the coach grabbed him by his helmet, and his mother came on the field with an umbrella and beat the coach. That was my favorite story, because I felt like if I ever let my boys play football, they're all grown men now, I would probably act just like his mother.
she was very outgoing, and it was we had an unusual relationship. I'm the oldest in the family, and it was almost like they used to call me old man, and it was almost like we were brother and sister. Because I remember as a young boy, she was still young, and the other kids was in the house, but she would have boyfriends because her father wasn't ever there, and so I would have to watch her and her boyfriends, and then watch the little kids too, make sure that nothing happened. I remember one time we busted out a window at the house, our house, in the projects, and I got all the kids to line up with the lie, and
You trained them all
I
to
trained them to lie, and to fool her about what happened, but she knew. And I remember I had put the dishes, under the sink because it was too late. I didn't want to wash them. She woke me up. I don't know what she was hitting me with, but but she was that kind of person. I remember one time I came home and we were driving and somebody cut her off and she chased the car down, pulled the woman out the car, started beating her. I believe that's why I get my chill, from my life too, but a lot of my chill attitude, because I had to watch out for her, because she was always starting stuff or finishing it,
Now, we are toasting your mama, not roasting your mama.
Okay, well, that's her, though. I mean, it's just like now, she knows what's going on all over the city and don't go nowhere. She feeds birds and squirrels and all kind of animals come around the house, cats, and she just loves to feed them. And she goes fishing and she gives fish out to people in the neighborhood. She has a garden. I don't know who she got digging up for, because Lord knows I did it every year. And she, grows tomatoes and plants, food and stuff. And she's very giving. I remember when we were young living in the project, she would take all the little kids. We would go to the movies on Saturday and we would take a big old bag of popcorn, because the popcorn was too much in the movie. And then they would let you bring it in, and we would go to the movie on Saturday, and she would take all the little kids in the neighborhood. And, our house was party central, in that little part of the projects.
So all of the kids came to your house to have a good time?
We had the Super Bowl, we had the World Series, we had the NBA championship in the playground, and then we had the party at our house.
Well, that sounds like a great mom.
Yeah, she's good.
So what one thing do you tell your children about your mother that you hope they'll tell the next generation and the next generation? And what one thing would you tell your children that you hope that to the third and fourth generation they would remind each other about?
My mother is very big on respect. She demands it and she gives it. And she said that'll go a long way, even if people don't like you. If they respect you, then you can work with the situation.
One thing that I remember my grandmother doing that one of my aunts does now that I hope to continue is prayer. Every night at 12 o'clock midnight, my grandmother would, you think she'd be sleeping, she'll just get up and pray. And my mother would always tell me that when I was little, is pray about it and watch God change it. Pray about it and God's going to change it. And I remember when I was in elementary, she started telling me, if you learn to pray now, when you get my age, you're going to be powerful if you learn the power of prayer. And so I hope to keep that tradition up in my family and hope that they learn the power of prayer.
Here's to you, moms everywhere. We salute you. You are awesome. We are great because of you.